Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, brothers, and sisters. Welcome back to the VMO TCR UK Championship for 2024. We're at the penultimate round, and we return to the home of British motorsport. It is Silverstone for the national layout. 6 turns of what is going to be quite incredible racing. Oh my God, did we enjoy Donington last time out? That was frantic. It was absolutely amazing. Our drivers put on a great show, and I'm really looking forward to what is my favorite track. I know a number of tracks I've said leading up to this point are one of my favorites. Silverstone is the top of the pile as far as I am concerned. I make no apologies for that. My name is Chris Buxton. I'm one of your commentators for tonight's festivities. Joining me in the box, happy to say, returning to my side, Alex Newman is with me. Evening, Alex. We're in for a good show.
Good evening, Chris. I'm just going to go back to the point where you've been dreaming over Snetterton for about what is 7 or 8 weeks, and now you're saying Silverstone's your favorite track. What's happened there?
I love Snetterton. Don't get me wrong, but Silverstone is. Yeah, I love Snetterton. I love Donington Park. I'm looking at the tracks we've done. Well, we were at Silverstone for round number 2. Yeah, Brands is a great track. Thruxton is one of my local tracks. Yeah, Oulton Park, brilliant track. Croft, I'm less familiar with Croft, so kind of by that definition, it falls slightly lower for me. But Silverstone, I don't know whether it's because I've worked there a few times. Home of national, British motorsport. Whatever it is, it just pips it for me. I absolutely adore the place, and I won't apologize for that either.
You know what? I'll go for it. But as we can see now, we're on the penultimate round, which is sad to say it's a penultimate round because this has been such a brilliant event that's been happening over the past, I believe, just over 5 months or so. I could be wrong there. But today, obviously, we're at Silverstone National for the 16th of October. But the final round is, again, I think, around that I'm going to probably enjoy the most. It's Brands Hatch GP being one of my favourite tracks on the 30th of October 2024.
In 2 weeks' time, indeed, we will crown a champion by that point. Now, Dan Herlock still has a commanding lead up top. It's not quite his to take away yet, but it's certainly got his name beginning to be etched into the silverwork. He leads the championship on 324 points from Callum Cripps in second on 256. So what's that, 70-ish points between the two. So there is very little in it between the top two. There is even less in it from second down to 5th or 6th or so. So Gianmarco Fiducci is not present tonight. I do believe he kind of alluded last week after Donington that that may well be his last race of this particular year, which is a great shame if that is the case. However, his place is being taken in the number 46 Veloci Esports car by Alejandro Ottaviani. So again, a fellow Italian, a very, very seasoned racer. So really looking forward to seeing what he can do. Judging by the qualifying times, the times were very, very, very close. Let's have a look at how the grid forms. It's Scott Mitchell-Malm. Bear in mind, Scott only joined us a few rounds ago. He has got the top spot by 19 thousandths of a second from the Vapor Shield Civic of Matt Richards. And Jordan Richardson, again, they're being cruel. Richards and Richardson are very close together again. So Matt Richards rounds out row 1. Jordan Richardson heads row 2 alongside Tom O'Leary in the Richardson Co BMW. Then Cedo Vaya for Brabham alongside Cameron Brewster. Great effort there in the Drake Racing Cupra on row 3. Dan Herlock and Jack London have row 4. And Callum Wilson and Luke Mitchell round out row 5. There is Alejandro Ottaviani alongside another newcomer, Phil Garside for Full Zone Racing in the Honda on row 6. Ben Willis and Tom Mould have row 7 with Johan Kergin and Bruno Reno on row 8. Sam Dowman and Jeffrey Fournier have row 9 with Chris Shepherd and Ty Cuthbert rounding out the 10 rows. We're only half a second from pole, I will add, with Alan Smith and Joel Belto at the tail end of the field. Only 22 cars join us this time. We have got a few more absences than we've had previously. However, oh my God, are we in for some incredible racing? It is quite short. We were looking at 56, 57 second laps as you saw from the timing, from at the absolute cutting edge of the lap times. So we're looking at around about 22 laps per race for this event. And believe me, this is going to be absolutely crazy. We had a lot of fun last time in Donington Park. There's going to be several real key areas to look for. So we start at, obviously there is only one start finish line on the national layer. It is just after Woodcote. So it was the old start finish line. Coming through Cops, they're almost flat through there, so that's not going to see an awful lot of action, a lot of side-by-side. But then you've got the breaking into the Maggots hairpin. That's going to see a fair amount of action. Equally, as they're coming through Brooklands and then Luffield, that is where we're also going to see a fair amount of carnage as they break heavily from the Wellington Straight. So then, Alex, looking forward to this one?
I am. This race can go one of two ways, sorry.
Or two of one ways, if you like.
Either it's going to be really close in terms of positions or battling, or it's going to be carnage for some of the top cars like Dan Herlock, for example, who might be encountering traffic during this race. Because obviously there is only 6 turns, as you were mentioning, and 3 of them being quite excessive, like Maggots Hairpin, Luffield, as well as, I guess you could say, Corpus, but even though Corpus is probably going to be more of a lift than a full-on braking session for these cars. It's going to be very difficult going into Maggots for the first time for these drivers, all 22 cars going in at once. But we do actually now see the grid is now formulating here for race 1 of the night. We do see, obviously, Mitchell Mam taking P1, followed then by Richards, and then Richardson rounding out the top 3 there.
Absolutely so. So Mitchell Malm and Richards now lead the field away, the Ford and the Honda. We haven't seen the Ford out towards the sharper end too many times. So Scott Mitchell Malm representing the mark very, very well. As Richards right on his case in the lead of the Vapor Shield Civics. Then it is Jordan Richardson in 3rd place with Tom O'Leary, the lead BMW. So it's Ford, Honda, BMW, your top 4. Yes, as was pointed out in chat. Yeah, we have got Richards and Richardson, both of them for Vapor Shield Hondas. They were very mean to us last time and stayed very close together, and they are doing so again. So we will be having words with them. Just separate a little bit more. Of course they won't. They're racers. They'll always do what they can. Cedar Via in the Brabham Toyota rounds out the top 5 with Cameron Brewster, with 5 marks in the top 6 positions I've just spotted, with Brewster being the lead Cupra. So we now work our way through Woodcote and back towards the lines. So 22 laps, 3 races for the night. Oh, yes, looking forward to this. Broken record statement, I know, but I don't apologize for it. This series, exactly as you said, Alex, has been superb from beginning to now, and this is going to be amazing.
Indeed. So we just now wait for the grid to go, as we do just see them all lining up, going into their grid positions for the first time here tonight. Obviously, as we were saying, Richard and Richardson will probably confuse us, as it has done in the past. We do see now Cuthbert being the last car, fortunately with a 5-place grid penalty from last round, so that obviously has a tiny bit more work to do than anticipated. But now we do now just wait for the lights to go green here for tonight, as we wait for the siren to go. As we do go green here, as we do see Mitchell Mount doesn't get as great as a start as he probably wants to, as Richards gets the inside line going into Corpshire and actually doesn't even need it, gets the move done pretty much instantly there. We do also see Richardson behind in the other Honda, now just trying to put a tiny bit of pressure there on Mitchell Malm in the Ford. But we do see now going down into Maggots Hairpin for the first time. This is where we're probably going to see a few incidents, to say the least, but we do see that is going to be Herlock going for the outside line on Mr. Brewster there, I believe it is. Last in wire, sorry, but doesn't get the move done just yet, but obviously has a tiny bit of a straight here to try and get a tiny bit of a toe. It's not going to be too effective, but might be able to line him up going into the next corner of what is going to be Brooklands here. We go into Brooklands for the first time, and we do see it's going to be one of the Richard Codes BMWs of, I believe that's going to be Mr. Tom O'Leary under pressure from Wire here. Wire has the inside line going into Luffield for the first time. Is he going to be able to make the move stick and preserve his position? We'll have to find out as we come off into Woodcote now. He's able to preserve his position, but we do see now, we're going to see Herlock trying to go for a move, going into the inside line, going into Corpse.
Great start from Matt Richards in the Civic to displace Scott Mitchell Mount. Still side by side with the BMWs. Tom O'Leary's been hung out to try again He got stuck on that outside line. He almost loses the tail of the BMW, but manages to hang on to it. Right behind him, Cameron Brewster trying to get alongside to get the inside line coming into the Maggots hairpin. Can he get it done? Yes, he can. That's another position lost for the Richardson Co BMW. Jack London right behind Tom O'Leary now, trying to make the BMW stay even worse. Richards from Mitchell, Mount from Richardson, your top three. Bit of a gap then to Cedo Vian, who's now up into fourth position. You see the second of the Richardson Co BMWs, which is Wilson in ninth position, having to defend as that's a drag, one of the drag cars almost being shoved onto the inside line coming through Luffield. It was the camera now locks on to Callum Wilson is down into 10th position. Mitchell in the drag racing Cupra now up into 9th place. So best lap is, well, the best lap is going to change hands quite a few times, so don't pay too much attention to that. Cedo Via up into 4th. My God, he must feel like all the pressure in the world is on him. Whereas Matt Richards has got himself a little bit of breathing space. Not too much, but it's enough for the moment.
So we do actually see as well Otto Viani, who is taking over the Veloce car for, well, at least for this round and potentially the last round as well. Just lurking behind, trying to get in the positions of Mitchell and Wilson if he's able to, as we do go into Brooklands once again here. We do see there's not going to be too much action going on here, but we do see Luke Mitchell still trying to go around the outside line of the Cooper there, of the Ford, sorry, of Mr. London 8. Gets very, very sideways going into left field, able to keep it in one line and one direction, but we do see all of that time lost, and now we do see the Richardson Co BMW. It is going to be Wilson just tracking right behind him now. No breathing space here for Luke Mitchell, and probably under such an immense amount of pressure right now as well. But looking in the broadcast chat right now, Hurdlock has the potential to wrap up the championship this round, if he is able to maintain the scores that he's needed, which I believe he needs to be, is it 5th for each round? I'm sorry, I can't read that properly for some reason, but it might be 5th. If he can get and maintain, I believe it's 5th for each round, he might be able to win the championship here. Don't quote me on that just yet, but that is just some simple maths that I've been trying to wrap up into my head. So we'll find out towards the end of the round, but currently Hurdlock is in 4th. So, and again, he's actually trying to make position here, but we actually do see Wire once again trying to maintain his position of P4, but Hurlock goes up into it. So this could be a good start here for Hurlock.
That was a big, still, Dan Hurlock's had that BMW so loose all season long, and it looks great when the slide works, but hasn't always paid off for him. But Dan Hurlock now up into 4th position, ahead of Cedo Via. Can he do anything about the 3.5 seconds? Oh no, that's trouble, that's contact. Heading down towards Cops, a spinning Drake car. Oh my goodness me, Luke Mitchell is he's tangled up with him. Wasn't quite, maybe Willis that he caught up with, but either way, the Drake Racing Cupra went for a big old spin, bouncing off the wall on the way down towards Cops. He's still going though, but such a great shame. All that momentum completely lost for Luke Mitchell.
So that was quite an interesting move, to say the least, going into the start-finish straight. Obviously, there's not too much room, but there's enough room for 2 cars to go side by side. So that was probably one of the more controversial ones that we'll see here tonight. But again, incidents will happen. Obviously, the stewards are there to intervene with it if necessary. But we do now see London going for the inside line, going into Luffield, is able to make the move done. But we do now see both of the Drake Racing cars going side by side with each other. Can Mitchell go through the inside line going into the Woodcott? It's not the best of corners to try and overtake on. Such a shallow corner here, but we do see going into Corpse. Luke Mitchell was able to go up into P12 provisionally here and now try to track down London in that Ford. But we do see going further up as well, going into the Maggots hairpin, the Veloce car of Ottaviani once again in P8 now, so has gained a few positions since we last saw him. Now just trying to put as much pressure as he can on Tom O'Leary ahead in the Richardson Co BMW as we do go down now into Brooklands. If he's going to be able to make the move, that's a different question, as we do actually see Tom O'Leary going for a huge lunge there on the Drake Racing Cupra. He's able to keep it. Can he maintain his position though, the Drake Racing car? No, he can't. We do see the Veloci car of Otto Viani once again trying to intervene with it, but isn't able to make that position up just yet. But will he be able to do it into the next lap?
We will see. Oh, Otto Viani being forced to the outside line. He had a really good exit out of Luffield, but he had to kind of make a decision on where he was going to go there. He was somewhat caught trying to find a bit of space as the two cars ahead of him, Tacito Vire and Tom O'Leary, were arguing for 5th position. No harm, no foul of the Veloci ace. Now, oops, get a bit of a hip check there from Cedo Vire, but the Toyota is carries on his merry way. Ottaviani, no harm, no foul. Is that a change for the lead we see at the bottom of the shot lane? Mitchell Mount did regain the lead a couple of laps ago very briefly in the Kings Racing 4, but was not able to hold on to it. Matt Richards back up into the lead. Jordan Richardson still hustling hard. So Vapor Shield with quite a commanding grip of this race at the moment. Dan Herlock, you see in the background, not able to close in at the moment. Now, Dan, who from this top lot is running option tyres, I wonder? Well, Dan isn't. Let me have a quick look. Is Scott Mitchell Mel running options? No, he isn't. As the camera looks back further, Cameron Brewster on the back of Cedo Vire. What about Richards and Richardson? Let me double check to see if they are running the options. Richards isn't, which makes me think that Richardson isn't. No, indeed, none of the top 4 are running their option tyres in this race. So that is how they're all keeping pace with each other at the moment, as looks like Sam Dowman is falling down the tower. Cameron Brewster gets a good slipstream on Cedo Vire, gets a look on the inside line coming towards Brooklands. Needs to get this move done quickly, though. He does not want to be hung out to dry on the outside of Luffield, but Cedo Vire has done what he needs to do to hang on to that line and regain that spot. That's the Brabham Racing Toyota back up in the 7th.
Great move there, just trying to preserve his position. As we can see, he's able to do it for now, but Cameron Brewster once again charging at him, going into the start-finish line here, going into Corpus. Will he try to take the inside line? No, he's not. He's going to tuck behind. He tried to go for a move going into Maggot's hairpin here. We do see there is quite a reasonable gap now between what is going to be Brewster and Wilson behind in the Richardson Co BMW, but that gap can decrease significantly here. Speaking of a very decreased gap here, it's going to be, again, a battle for the lead. It's going to be Mitchell Mount versus Richards. Once again, Richards is able to go for the inside line, going into Brooklands in the Vapor Shield Racing Honda here. Is he going to be able to make it stick and keep the position? Not just yet. There's going to be a tiny bit of door rubbing between the two, but is able to keep it for now. But again, Mitchell Mount is just going to be tracking as much as he can here. He also needs to, again, be a tiny bit worried on how much he's attacking, because that Richardson's Vapor Shield Honda has caught up significantly just before that attack, so it has to balance the amount he is attacking at the same time as defending, as we do see as well, going back down into Callum Wilson's position of P9, just trying to keep up with the rest of the grid so far. As we can see Brewster ahead of him, who's still very furiously attacking Mr. Wire here, as we do get a brilliant scene of the garage there.
Alejandro Ottaviani up into 5th position, started outside the top 10, now finds himself inside the top 5. A little bit deep coming through the Maggot's hairpin, though, as he left an opportunity for Tom O'Leary to attack him back. And then at the bottom of the shot, you can see again that's Scott Mitchell Mount having a go at for the lead. He's got the overlap he needs. He couldn't get it last time around. He wants the inside line for Luffield. But Matt Richards doing what he can. He knows he's going to lose out this time. It was brilliantly defended on the previous lap by the Vapor Shield Civic. He's got to relent. That is Scott Mitchell now back up into the lead. The Kings Racing Ford is back up into the position in which he started. Now, will the Civic swap round? Will Richardson decide to have a go? Or is he going to challenge his teammate? Only time will tell. But Scott Mitchell now, he managed to get the pole by the nearest of margins, 19 thousandths of a second he got the pole by. Now he's back up into the lead. Again, as a reminder, they're all running the same compound of tyres, so no one has any particular advantage. It's all down to driver skill. So, yeah, brilliant effort from all 3 of our top drivers to race that hard without any impact or any significant impact between the 3.
Chris Shepherd now on one of the RSR BMWs, now putting a lot of pressure on one of the Fords there of Jack London, who's been one of the centre of attention here for tonight's festivities so far. As we do also see as well, we can see Mr. Brewster going along with it as they go side by side. There's going to be barely any room there for Mr. Brewster to go for the gap there, but he is able to do so. But he spins on the grass. Unfortunately, that is going to cost him quite a few positions. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to recover that. That's just again showing you R Factor 2's grass physics is quite vicious, to say the least.
Yeah, Bruno Rado, he knew he'd outbraked himself and then kicks up a bit of dust on the exit of the left field to boot. He knew he'd gone in too deep, but by that point, it's too late. He wasn't going to recover that. Scott Mitchell-Mao has built up nearly a second now from Jordan Richardson, who's taken over second spot. So Matt Richards now down into third position. So the Vapor Shield Civics have indeed swapped round. So Jordan Richardson now trying to set off after Scott Mitchell-Mao. Well, we'll see if the lead changes hands once again. Dan Herlock just, again, doing what he needs to do. As was alluded to earlier, it doesn't need to win, just needs to score well. Jeff Fournier is under pressure from Chris Shepherd as the two RSI BMW swap round. Are they going to try and swap back again? Is Fournier going to be forced to? Well, Fournier is the lead of these two BMWs. Oh no, that's impact there. That was Jack London. They were trying to get alongside, trying to get the overlap on the inside on the left field. Didn't quite go his way. The front wheel drive Ford saving in there. But that could have gone horribly, horribly wrong for Chris Shepherd. But no harm, no foul on this occasion. And still the battle for 12th continues.
Indeed, so going down to P21 here, Botello putting a tiny bit of pressure on one of the Richardson co-cars who we haven't actually seen here before, one of the substitute drivers here for tonight. I believe it's, how would you say that name? Is it Kajin? I think is how you say it.
Yes, it is indeed. It's Johan Kajin who is standing in for Callum Cripps tonight. Now that is for wooden spoon avoidance between Kajin and Botello. So that is 23rd. We did have 22 cars at the beginning. We did lose one before the rolling lap began. Oh, Phil Garside, new driver for this race, inside the top 10, having to defend it very, very hard, admittedly, but the Honda trying to win out against that is Mitchell that he is trying to fend off, but the Cupra has got the inside line and gets up into 10th position, sending the full send Honda down one spot. They are trying to chase off after the next group of cars, which is being led by Alejandro Ottaviani, although he himself has got himself, well, actually about a second and a half gap over Cido Vaya, who has got who's he got? He's got Wilson and Brewster on his tail. A little bit further back up, Alan Smith giving a bit of a nudge to Ty Cuthbert in the 15th place Cupra. There's racing all over the place. This is what we've always come to enjoy from our touring cars. We certainly enjoyed it last time out. Oh, big defensive move there from Alan Smith. That's going to really jeopardize his line through Brooklands. No, bit of a wobble there from what I think was Bruce Willis. But they do remain where they are. Also, that's an opportunity there for Ben Willis. Didn't need that one twice as he scythes past Smith up into 16th place.
Brilliant move, and it's still not over just yet. They're still in such a close proximity of one another, and we might see another move here from the Cooper as we do see him now just approaching, going into Corpse, going into Maggot's hairpin. Now a brilliant overtaking opportunity for these cars, and probably one of the only overtaking opportunities alongside Brooklands, as we do see him now just lurking behind Ben Willis, ever so slightly gaining on him as we do now go on to the Wellington straight here before entering into Brooklands. Is he going to be able to do any sort of move here? Might be quite optimistic. He is quite far back. And luckily he isn't going to do that because I didn't see how far back he was. But we do see Ben Willis makes a tiny bit of a mistake there, which is going to obviously cause now Mr. Smith to be all over. No, that's Rainho, sorry. Rainho is going to be all over the back of Mr. Ben Willis here as now we do see getting an onboard picture of Bruno Rainho as we do see this is just going to show us how much time it's actually going to gain under that slipstream. Probably not too much. It's a very, very short straight here. So we go into Corpse once again for lap 16. He's going to get a better. Ben Willis gets a tiny bit sideways, but Rainho still isn't able to get as much exit speed as Mr. Ben Willis, as they still stay in probably around the same proximity of each other.
Indeed, so running on board with Bruno Arena in the Vauxhall, trying to keep the pressure on Ben Willis in the 16th place Cupra. As the field starting to spread out a little bit in parts, but still got these clumps of battles going on. You saw Alan Smith having a look on the inside line of Brooklands. We now jump up to Callum Wilson, who is challenging Cido Vaya for 7th place. And you have Ottaviani just ahead of them. He was challenging Tom O'Leary early on, but seems to have lost that particular battle to the Richardson BMW. That's very deep there for Callum Wilson coming through Cops, but doesn't lose too much time. Studio Via, he was kind of tempting the door open there for the BMW, but stuck to the racing line, stuck to his guns, and got through the Maggots hairpin pretty well as they continue on their merry way, trying to stay in touch with Alejandro Ottaviani. So still a potential battle for 6th as we are entering the last 5 laps of our first race of the night.
Still very, very unpredictable, as I say every time. It's just because we do now see Callum Wilson all over the rear of Wire. Once again, Wire has not had a big break for tonight's first race, to say the least. Callum Wilson now all over the rear, but we also do see Brewster once again, who's been on fire during this race, to say the least. Practically one of the cars that has done probably the most overtakes as well, as we can see now Callum Wilson gaining a lot of time there on Mr. Wire, going through Corp. So it's a very hit and miss corner there. You can lose a lot of time, but you can also gain a lot of time to go into the Maggots hairpin here. Once again, who gets the better exit speed? It does seem to be Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson's improving all over here, as we can just see how close they currently are between the two on board. Callum Wilson now as we go into the Wellington straight. It does actually seem now Wyatt does have a tiny bit of an advantage under the top speed, but we do go now in to Brooklands and Luffield once again. It's still really, really close between the two drivers, but I think Callum Wilson might be able to take it towards the end of the race.
See the Via in the Toyota has really good corner exit speed that is keeping the BMW at bay. They are trying to close in on Alejandro Ottaviani in the Veloci number 46 car right ahead of them. Keep an eye on that gap. It's about 1.2 seconds as they crossed the line last time around. And also they can't ignore the fact that Cameron Brewster is not far behind. So that's the Drake Racing number 39 that is closing in on the Richardson Co BMW. Potential challenge for 8th is forming. So 4 laps remaining, 3.5 if you like. Scott Mitchell Mountain now with nearly 3-second lead to himself over Jordan Richardson, and in turn has another 3.1 over his teammate of Mount Richards. We have a look at a pair of RSR BMWs, Chris Shepherd in 13th, Jeff Fournier, who's sliding all over the place in 12th place. Yeah, they do love to run those BMWs loose. I mean, they're quite long wheelbase, so running them loose does help rotate the car, but it does make them very, very, very skitty. But they are managing that pretty well indeed. Chris Shepherd, who is a race winner in this season. He won the first race out, Silverstone International, which was our second round of the season. Probably feels quite a while ago for Chris Shepherd, but either way, he did take top honours that day. He knows how to handle the RSI BMW well and continues to put the pressure on Jeff Fournier.
Indeed so, as we do actually see both of the RSR cars are battling with each other, but now Cameron Brewster still all over the rear of Mr. Wilson. Wilson's not actually able to catch up to Wire just yet, so I'm starting to think there might be a tiny bit of a tyre issue here for Mr. Wilson. I'm not sure what tyre Wilson's currently on if I look at the sheet. Do you know Mr. Buxton? Or no, wait, hang on. Trying to find him on the sheet.
Cameron Wilson is running the primes. He runs the option and race 2.
Okay, so this is more just of the unfortunate part of a pace playing into play here. Wire is starting to create a tiny bit of a gap here, but I'm assuming this could be because Wilson's probably under quite an immense amount of pressure now not to lose this position to Cameron Brewster for P8 here. He's trying to preserve it. This is the penultimate lap now as we speak, so it doesn't have too long left to go. So it is still possible to actually defend for that long, but Cameron Brewster is wanting this position thick and fast here as we go into Brooklands and Luffield. Once again, he almost goes for the outside line there. He tried to squeeze himself in going into Luffield there, isn't able to as we go into Woodcock. Now Ty Cuthbert, the quartermaster car, now goes side by side here with Mr. London. Isn't able to do it just yet, still all over the rear. Might get the better exit going through Luffield and going into Woodcock. Not just yet. He might have the slipstream going into Corpshire. This might be his time to shine here going into P14. Jack London, again, who has not had a break during this race, been on the stream most of the time here now, going into Corpse here. Who's going to get the better exit? It doesn't seem to be Ty Cuthbert at this time, but going into Maggot for the final time. This is going to be a brilliant overtaking opportunity for himself. Scott Mitchell-Malm then comes round into left field for the final time of race 1 here to become victorious, for race 1 here of tonight's festivities.
Indeed. So first win of the season then for the Kings Racing Ford. Scott Mitchell-Malm takes the first win of the night. He is chased home by Jordan Richardson. Over 4 seconds between the two. Look at Tom O'Leary trying a late challenge on Dan Hurlock for 4th. Can't quite do it. Matt Richards came home in 3rd position. The RSR BMW is still arguing for 12th position, but that particular spot stays with Jeff Fournier. Here is battling all over the place. I wonder if someone ran out of fuel there. It may have been Garside that was going very, very slowly over the line. It does happen. Yeah, we would have played Russian roulette with the fuel gauge a little bit too much. And Joel Belto going to be the last car over the line. He's going to be our wooden spoon recipient for race number 1. Unfortunate for Joel. But Scott Mitchell-Malm, what a great battle he put on in the early stages of the race. So he had to really work hard against the Vapor Shield Civics. But let's summarize the finishing results as soon as we can. Scott Mitchell-Malm will no doubt be very, very pleased about that. He joined us at Croft, actually, which was only 3 rounds ago before tonight. It's been a little bit up and down for him. He did get 3rd place in the 2nd race of Donington last time out, but he claims a top spot this time. So Scott Mitchell-Malm on the top step of the podium with Jordan Richardson and Matt Richards alongside him. 4th is Dan Hurlock. 5th, Tom O'Leary. 6th, Alejandro Artiviani. 7th is Cito Vaya. 8th, Callum Wilson. 9th is Cameron Brewster. And rounding out the top 10 is Luke Mitchell, 2nd of the Drake Racing Cupras. 11th, Jeff Fournier, fending off a very spirited charge from Chris Shepherd in 12th. Phil Garside 13th, Jack London in 14th, Ty Cuthbert 15th, Ben Willis in 16th, Bruno Reno in 17th, Alan Smith 18th, Johan Kergin in 19th, Sam Dowman rounding out the top 20 with Joel Beltel being the last car over the line. I think Garside either braked too early or he ran out of fuel. Either way, he lost a lot of positions there in the last stage. But, I mean, that's his first race of the series, and he was well inside the top 10. So a good starting effort there for the Treble 8, the full send Honda of Phil Garside. So now race number 2 is decided, the grid for which is decided from the race results of the first race. So the order they finished the first race in is going to be the starting order for race number 2. And then for race number 3, it is the reverse grid element. So a random number between 6 and 12 is picked by production in the background. And that's how many of our top 12 grid positions will be reversed from the race positions of race number 2, which will then form the grid for race number 3. Well, that wasn't quite as chaotic as I was expecting, but wow, did we have a lot of amazing racing there, Alex?
I think it was still quite chaotic, to be honest. There was definitely a few controversial moments, shall we say, that the stewards will probably be queried about later on today. But going back to what happened with Garside, Phil Morby says in chat, braked straight after the finish line and escaped out before T1. That's a paddling. So that is probably what's happened with Garside. So that is it's a dodgy way, and I think it's a bit risky, to be honest, because obviously that's an easy way to cause quite a big crash. But going into race 2, Hurlock is at quite a good point here to try and win another race here. Obviously, I believe he finished P4, which obviously means he has less cars to overtake in front of him. To actually potentially try take the lead for race 2, which will definitely close down that championship for him if he's able to bag that. But in terms of Richardson Co.'s racing, they might win the Constructors Championship here tonight as well, if everything goes right.
Very, very true. Well, can Scott Mitchell-Mount make it 2 for 2? That's going to be the next question. So he starts from pole this time, having had a very conclusive win in first race of the night. Let's have a look at tyre allocations. So in the last row, we didn't really go through the tyre allocations too much. The ones that ran their option tyre, again, as a reminder to those that may not be too familiar, the option tyre has to be run once during the night. So, and these tyre allocations must be chosen before any racing begins. They cannot make up their mind in the course of the racing. As soon as these tyre allocations are locked in, that's it. That's what they stick with. So for one of our 3 races, the option tyre must be used. And some drivers choose to get the option tyre out of the way early. Some choose to use them on the reverse grid race. Others obviously put it in the middle. There's no kind of perfect way of doing it, just more personal preference. So those that ran in race 1 were Cedo Via, Jack London, Cameron Brewster, Johan Kurgin, and we've got Ben Willis, Ty Cuthbert, Alan Smith, and Phil Garside. So those were the drivers that ran their option tyre in the first race. And those that are running their option tyre this race are Dan Herlock, Matt Richards, Chris Shepherd, Alejandro Ottaviani, Jordan Richardson. So both of our front-running Civics are running their option tyre now. Who else? Bruno Reno, Joel Belto, and Callum Wilson. Well, Scott Mitchell-Mount's going to have a hell of a job on his hands. He starts from pole on the prime tyre with 2 very quick Civics behind him, both running option tyre. That is a pretty unenviable position to be in.
Yeah, he's in a very vulnerable spot there, but I'm quite surprised how little people, obviously I know we're on a smaller grid than we usually are, but I'm surprised how little people have chosen that option tyre for race 3. Usually we saw people run the option tyre in race 3 due to that reverse grid effect, but it seems people are taking advantage of that option tyre around the track like this to actually try gain positions. Obviously we're coming closer to the end of the championship, so people will be using their tyres to the maximum here to try and score as many points as they possibly can, especially Daniel Herlock, who is going to be taking it going into the second race, which him starting I believe as P4 is definitely going to give him quite a significant boost going on into race 2. But Matt Richards is also on the option tyres, as you were just mentioning as well, so it's going to be quite close between the two. Obviously there's a few positions between them both, but I'm sure Dan Herlock will be able to catch up pretty quickly as long as everything goes his way.
We will have to see. So those are the, so as mentioned, those are the drivers running their option tyres. Maverick is saying no force feedback was not fun. No, I can imagine that's not. So that could explain how he struggled towards the tail end of that particular race. Okay, so I've just had something clarified to me by Ben Willis. I had assumed that the option tyre was always the softer tyre. Option simply means not the prime tyre. Sometimes the option tyre is the harder tyre instead of the instead of the softer one. So in this race we're actually running more softer compounds, the prime, the option being the harder of the 2 compounds. So the names I read out are actually going to be at a tyre disadvantage. So yeah, you learn something new every day. So therefore, so my earlier prediction that Scott Mitchell-Mount is going to be in an unenviable position this time is actually reversed, because he's now on the softer compound, which he has run in the previous race, so knows what to expect from them. On with the 2 Civics around him being on the harder tyre, but then roles will be reversed on our final race, the reverse grid race.
Indeed. So the tyres, obviously the softer tyres, the prime tyres now, which is definitely going to confuse me, is probably going to die off quite quickly as I guess we saw that with, I believe it was Wilson earlier into the race, the Richardson Co BMW, sorry. That's probably why he was losing time to wire in the end, if obviously he was on those prime tires, which is now classified as the softer tires. With a track that's so intense in tyres like Silverstone National, obviously as Maggots, Luffield and Brooklands being very, very, especially Corpse as well, I forgot that, all being very, very tyre consuming corners, most of them being high speeds or very, very grip needed corners. It's definitely going to affect those tyres. So I'm assuming the harder tyres probably will be the faster tyres for tonight.
We will have to see. There is a fair amount of, there's not any really, really slow corners. I mean, as slow as it gets is Brooklands and Luffield. But as we've seen, a lot of these cars do prefer to go very, very loose. So there's a lot of sliding going on. I'll have to see how our drivers manage that particular element, as they tend to do. Hopefully we'll be heading to race very, very shortly. And we'll run through the grid for race number 2. Yes, I spotted what you just said there, Mr. Newman. We will have to. Well, it's true. We will have to see. Because, for the benefit of the stream, what Alex just said was every time Chris disagrees with me, he says, "We'll have to see." Which is true. That's a statement of fact more than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. But
I must admit, I hadn't noticed it. If I'm entirely honest. Okay, so we're on the rolling lap then. Scott Mitchell-Malm again starts from pole with the tyre advantage this time, with Richardson alongside him on the front row. Then it is Matt Richards and Dan Hurlock on row 2. Tom O'Leary and Alejandro Ottaviani will have row 3. Cedar Vire and Wilson will have row 4, with Brewster and Mitchell holding on to row 5. Then it's RSR on row 6 with Jeff Fournier ahead of Chris Shepherd. There's Phil Garside and Jack London on row 7. Charlie Cuthbert and Willis on row 8. Bruno Reno and Alan Smith on row 9 with Johan Kersheen and Sam Dowman on row 10. Joel Belto. And that was our missing driver. It was Tom Mould that we lost on the rolling lap, or just before the rolling lap, for last time out. He joins us this time, so 22 cars will take the start. Can Scott Mitchell-Malm make it 2 for 2? Now, we have seen in previous races the tyre advantage disappear, so just because he's on the softer compound doesn't mean it will go entirely his way. And the Vapor Shield Civics will be going great guns to try and deny Scott Mitchell-Malm the back-to-back wins.
We will have to see. But what we see now, obviously, with the Ford of Mitchell-Malm obviously being on the stronger tyres now, which is, again, quite confusing, but, again, makes sense, obviously. We do now see the grid lining up here, getting ready to go green for the second race of the night. We do see them all just going into their grid position as we wait for the lights to be extinguished. And we hear the horn/siren go. We do see, obviously, it's going to be Scott Mitchell-Malm in P1, Richardson P2, Richards P3 here. Now all of the drivers waiting to hear that siren as we get the green flag going here, as we do see Richardson not getting a brilliant start there, as we do see Mitchell-Malm still struggling as well. Hurlock, though, going for the outside line, almost making it full wide, going into Corpse. There's going to be a tiny bit of contact between the two, and that is definitely going to affect him as he goes plummeting down the order here, as he goes side by side with another BMW, which is going to be O'Leary there, as we also see the Veloce car as well of Otto Viani right behind him. This is going to get quite... that was a car off, unfortunately. Dowman, unfortunately, plummeting down to the bottom of the grid. Then I believe we've seen a few quite major contacts going into Maggots, as we do see that's a car severely damaged here. Unfortunately, that's going to be Garside in the full send racing car with a lot of damage to the front end, as we go back on board now, going into Brooklands. Once again, we do see again Jordan Richardson trying to maintain his third position here, but we do see it two very, very vicious, angry BMWs behind him trying to get that position. But we do see Cedar Wire is well in P6, wanting to try potentially get a podium for tonight's race, which obviously will be ideal. But we do also see, again, a very capable Veloce driver of Otto Viani behind him in his mirrors, trying to pull out, going into Corpshire, isn't going to be able to make a stick yet, but in fact, he's under pressure now, as we do see Mr. Brewster all over the, no, that's going to be Mitchell, sorry, Luke Mitchell all over the rear of the Veloce cars. They go side by side, going in to Maggots Hairpin for the first time of race 2, and actually goes up into P7.
Great start then from Richards to reclaim the lead. It all got very, very bunched up. It was superb initial start from Dan Herlock, but couldn't quite capitalize on that. Just simply ran out of room. Cameron Brewster now having a go at Alejandro Ottaviani for 8th position. The Drake Racing Cooper managing to wrestle that spot from the Veloci BMW. It's now working their way through Luffield to complete lap 2. Richards from Mitchell Mile from Richardson. Your top 3 again. That's Ottaviani under pressure again, this time by Jack London in the Calamity Ford, and alongside, and that should be advantage Jack London. He still hasn't quite got him. Ottaviani's hanging on in there. Does have to concede that spot. Hung on as long as he could. Couldn't quite do it. Dan Herlock is side by side with Richardson for 3rd. Manages to get the RSR BMW up into the podium spot. They were actually side by side for quite a few corners. But that is Dan Herlock then, champion-elect. Well, current champion indeed, or last season's champion. And looking to retain his championship for another season. As the Civic is slightly wrong-footed there. Tom O'Leary trying to wrestle his way on the inside of Luffield. Can't do it. He's going to have to concede that particular spot for now. And then Luke Mitchell trying to get involved in the Drake Racing Cooper. Tries to get the inside line and does get the inside line coming through Woodcote. What a great corner exit there from Luke Mitchell to put him inside the top 5.
Brilliant move there. I'm very impressed currently with the Drake Racing's performance, but for how long will that last as we do now go into what is going to be Maggots Hairpin for the 4th time here of tonight's second race here, as we do see again Cedar Wire trying to gain the positions that he unfortunately lost at the start here. If you see, we do see Tom O'Leary in the Richardson Co BMW, who was the one who overtook him earlier, but we do see again he's going to be under a lot of pressure from Mr. Brewster, the other Drake Racing car from behind as they go side by side going in to Brooklyn. Is he going to be able to keep the move? No, he is not just yet. As we also now see as well what is going to be Mr. Brewster, or is it, no, that's Luke Mitchell going side by side and trying to put a tiny bit of pressure here on Richardson in the Vapor Shield Honda here. Is he going to be able to make the move stick so far going into Luffield? Who gets the better exit? It's going to be Luke Mitchell. He's got to have the inside line once again going into Woodcote. If he's able to get P4, we'll have to find out going into Corpse. He has the better advantage of the inside line going into Corpse. Is it going to work in his favor though? Yes, it is. But are we going to see any sort of retaliation here from Richardson as we go into Maggots Hairpin? We will have to wait and see here as we go into Maggots Hairpin here. Brilliant overtaking opportunity if able to be executed correctly here, but Luke Mitchell seems to have maintained P4 so far and on to P3, as we can see the top 3 battling very, very heavily as well. Thomas O'Leary, one of the cars who wants to try and get up the order as quickly as he can now. P5 ahead of him with Richardson, who just lost the position of P4. Now under pressure once again going into Brooklyn to get the inside line. Thomas O'Leary, is it going to be able to stick? Yes, it is. Richardson not having the brilliant start of race 2 so far.
Oh, and that's Mitchell Baum on the inside line, and Matt Richards for the lead. Hangs on to all the way around the apex of Luffield, but can he get it done? No, not quite. Dan Herlock's got a great ringside seat for the battle ahead of him. They're still side by side. It's Richard and Mitchell Baum. The Civic actually manages to get the overspeed from Luffield through Woodcote and back up into the lead. Very nicely done. Civic back ahead of 4. Dan Herlock is still hustling hard, wanted to climb further up the podium. Then Luke Mitchell, who's having that storming race this time around. Now Luke Mitchell got 2 wins last time out at Donington, but has missed a huge amount of the season. We saw him at Brands Hatch at the season opener, and then we didn't see him again until last time out at Donington. So what might have been for Luke Mitchell with performances that he is now showing. But on board then with Dan Herlock, bouncing off the apex, going through Brooklands, trying to wrong foot Scott Mitchell Mound, trying to get up the podium even further. And then you saw the tail just begin to get loose. Now, was he held by Luke Mitchell? We couldn't quite see. we now ride on board with the Drake Racing Cooper. It's Honda from 4, from BMW from Cooper, your top 4.
So far so good in terms of this racing, but we do see now Luke Mitchell going into Corpse, gets a very cut inside line there. Yes, that's probably going to be a track cut, maybe not, depending on what the track limits are here. But we do see now Luke Mitchell gains a significant amount of time here on Daniel Hurlock in P3. Can he gain some sort of time going through into the Maggots hairpin? Again, gets a tiny bit loose there, Daniel Hurlock. That just seems to be a running theme here with these BMWs. We do now go onto the Wellington straight as we enter into Brooklands. Once again, going back on board with Scott Mitchell Mount as he tries to regain his position of P1 here, but Richards is able to glue himself to the defensive line for as long as he possibly can here. But we do see again Dan Hurlock trying to get a tiny bit rowdy, but we also see Luke Mitchell still trying to intervene as he goes for the inside line going into the left field. Is he going to be able to keep the move? Yes, he is. They go side by side going in to Woodcott and on to the start finish straight, as we do see Luke Mitchell will have a significant advantage of having the inside line going into Corpshire. This could be a very dangerous position here for Daniel Hurlock as we do enter on into lap 8 here, and Luke Mitchell still not being able to keep that position so far. It seems the BMW did get the better exit going through left field, but we go into Maggots hairpin once again, both cars going, and is that rain we see on the
that looks like it's rain that's now falling. Oh, Cameron Bruton getting really out of shape. Was he helped there by Cito Vaya? Not entirely certain. So Cito Vaya has been battling all around him. Now this really will shake things up if it starts to get slippery out there. We haven't seen rain all season long, and you're starting to see windscreen wipers going as well. So yes, confirmed, there is rain falling. Well, that's who is that going to benefit? I don't think it's going to benefit those that are running the harder tyre. Luke Mitchell tries to get an overlap on Dan Hurlock, cuts back underneath him on the exit of Luffield. The corner exit has been the strength of that Cooper all race long. It's got the inside line coming through Woodcote. Is this going to be a podium or into the podium possibly for Luke Mitchell? Yes, it is. The lead pair still side by side. Matt Richards fending off Scott Mitchell now. That's going to compromise the exit of the Ford. Is this going to be an opportunity for Luke Mitchell to get up into second? Can he get the overlap? No, he slots in behind the Ford. Whilst Luke Mitchell's having an absolute stormer on this occasion. Can he continue the momentum? That's the Vapor Shield Civic going very deep through the Maggots hairpin. Manages to keep the momentum though, keep his line. So, and here comes Mitchell. Is he going to try and get the pair of them? They're going 3 wide, going down to Brooklands. Mitchell's got one. He's got both of them. What a move, but he's got it. He's pushed him too deep. He's going to have to concede the lead back again. He doesn't want to lose this second place spot. Hangs on to the apex of Luffield. My goodness me, now immediately attacks the Civic once again. Can't get back up into the lead, but Luke Mitchell is really punchy.
Luke Mitchell was on fire here as he's still trying to go for the lead here. Scott Mitchell, man, probably not too happy that he lost that position, but this is an interesting fact. This is the first traces of rain we've seen since Brands Hatch 2022, so some of these drivers definitely got to be quite panicky about it, and I'm surprised some of them have the windscreen wipers actually assigned to a button here, as we do now see it again. Cameron Brewster trying to maintain his position of P6 here, but do see there's going to be a tiny bit of contact between the Drake Racing and Ben Willis and what is going to be CD Wire there, but luckily both of them make it out in one direction, and we do see now it's starting to calm down a tiny bit here. Again, Luke Mitchell goes up into the lead here as he's able to take away the lead from Richards in the Vapor Shield car. He is on fire so far, that Drake Racing car. This could be another, or is it going to be the first win for Mr. Luke Mitchell? I'm not sure we've seen him win this season. Have you seen him win, Chris?
We have, yes. He got 2 wins in Donington last time out, first and second races. Couldn't quite make it the hat-trick. But right behind him, look at that. Richards and Mitchell Malm still having their own argument. Tom O'Leary has now gotten involved in it. Where's the Richards and Co BMW come from? So suddenly, Tom O'Leary is now challenging for the podium spots himself. Dan Hurlock down to 5th position. Again, doesn't need to do anything silly. Doesn't need to challenge for those top spots. He just needs to consistently keep scoring to secure the championship. But up top, Mitchell from Richards from Mitchell Malm, as the Ford again has another go at the Vapor Shield Honda. Can't get it done, tries to get the overlap as they come through Woodcote. He's forced off the road, but that's impact between Mitchell Malm and Richards. That's wrong-footed Matt Richards. They're bouncing off each other's doors as the Ford has managed to sneak through into second. Matt Richards isn't letting that one lie, tries to get the exit from Luffield, can't get it done. Has to slot behind the Ford, and immediately Mitchell Malm goes defensive as they come up towards Cops once again. The Civic trying to get the overspeed, can't get it done. It's not got the run there. Here comes Tom O'Leary then in the 4th place. Richards go BMW. We've got the overlap coming down towards Magus. There's impact between the two. The Civic's going to have to take avoiding action over the grass. Somehow didn't collect anybody else. Oh, Matt Richards will be furious with that.
The stewards once again going to have a fewer incident reports for tonight, but unfortunately Matt Richards is able to go down into P10 there, but luckily is still in one piece. But we do see now Richards has a lot of work ahead. He has to try and get past the Veloce car first, which is definitely not going to be easy for himself. But again, with this rain that we see now, again, Ty Cuthbert trying to put a tiny bit of pressure there on the Ford there of London. He's able to get that move done going into left field there. Brilliant move there from him, and now onto another car for Mr. Cuthbert. But what we do obviously see, because it's raining, the tyres are going to be significantly colder, so it's going to be quite difficult for some of these cars to maintain heat in their tyres, especially the harder grip tyres. So that is one thing to take into consideration, that these cars are probably going to be absolute death traps at certain points here, especially onto the straights. But we do see that's going to be Richards actually taking out a car, unfortunately, going into the hairpin. But luckily both cars are able to rejoin in one piece. But Richardson has not had a brilliant race, bless him.
It's going a bit wrong for the Vapor Shield pair. That's both of the Civics that have taken to the grass. And I think it was Ottaviani that was the unfortunate victim there, as we look at Jordan Richardson now down into 17th in this almighty great group. Not ideal for him, trying to regain some traction. And on his inside line is Bruno Reno. Apt his name considering the weather conditions. Ty Cuthbert being challenged for 10th by Jack London. The Ford getting up into the top 10 spots, or is he? He's got the inside line. Ty Cuthbert, great exit speed there from Woodcote and Luffield to regain that 10th spot for Quartermass. The rain continuing to fall and make the track ever more slippery. And again, we haven't, exactly as you were saying, Alex, we haven't seen the rain in this series for over a year, so it's not conditions these drivers would have practiced an awful lot. Again, you don't tend to practice the rain very much. You tend to practice purely the dry and what you can do in those dry lines. As Cameron Brewster is up into 4th position, or trying to be, ahead of Dan Hurlock. He's nosed ahead, but he's got the outside line for Luffield, and that BMW must feel like it's on ice. It's loose enough in the dry, let alone what Dan Hurlock's trying to do in the wet. Hanging on to a top 5 position. Oh no, that's a spin. That's Ty Cuthbert that's tangled up with Richards. Oh, it is all going horribly, horribly wrong for Vapor Shield.
At least he was able to get into the pit lane. I'm believing he probably has quite a bit of damage, and he's probably going to retire from the race here, because there's not much he can actually do at this point in terms of a recovery drive here. But we do see now Cedo Wire currently in P6 all over the back of Hurlock. Hurlock is really struggling in these wettish conditions so far, so this is definitely not great for Daniel Hurlock and his championship. But we do see they both go side by side going in to Brooklands, but Cedar Wire is able to take the position even before going into the corner here. But we do see now Cedar Wire's redemption arc is not over just yet. He sees Brewster ahead of him. Is he going to be able to take him to the end of the race here, or are we going to see him in the same position or even worse here? But we do see again Otto Viani in what is the new Veloce driver car, all over the rear once again of what is London. London once again not had at all a break here, but we do see as well Ty Cuthbert all over the rear of what is going to be Mr. Alan Smith here as they go side by side here. Ty Cuthbert is able to lunge it going through Corpse here, and it's able to go up a position here, but unfortunately has lost 2 positions since we last saw him there. Currently now down in P11, but we do see going further back here, Thomas Mould is well making the position on one of the Hondas there of Garside here. They go side by side, but unfortunately Garside makes a very big mistake there. Goes really wide. Thomas Mould now going side by side with what is going to be one of the Richards & Co BMW here of Kajin. Is he going to be able to keep the position so far? Brooklyn, he has the inside line here, Mr. Kajin, but again, it might not be enough here. But we also see as well, I believe that's Botello behind him, trying to use this to its advantage, but that is actually Grano, sorry. But we do now see going back up Ben Willis in the Drake Racing car, just looking to collect any scraps from this barrel of the 2 RSR BMWs. Yeah, as we do see now, it's still very civil between the two. But now it's all just about how long can they stay on with each other. But Daniel Hurlock down into P7 so far, almost P8. He's dropping like flies here in terms of positions.
He does seem to be. The rain not favouring the BMWs. Big slide there from Jeff Fournier. You saw him do that in qualifying, and he didn't come off for him as well as it did there. Ben Willis right behind the two RSI BMWs is now coming into the camera shot. It's a battle for the lead. That's Mitchell Malm that's tangled with Cameron Brewster. Oh my goodness me, that's third and fourth that have just tangled. So Scott Mitchell Malm is now well outside the podiums as Cameron Brewster rejoins in seventh, Mitchell Malm in eighth. Oh my goodness, that is very unfortunate. You never ever want to see it. But that's given Luke Mitchell a pretty big lead, as that's a lot of sliding for Ottaviani. He's struggling out there as well, as Alan Smith and Johan Kajin have gone past him, so demoting the Italian down into 13th position now. Goodness me, the rain is really spicing up the order. So it's Mitchell from O'Leary from Cedo Via now your top three.
Mitchell Malm has one thing now as his priority, and that is to stay in the top 10, because obviously he could probably, if he's lucky enough with the top 12, or even if he can get into the top 6, he could be lucky enough to be in that reverse grid effect and could actually pull out something there as well. But we do see now Ben Willis trying to go through the outside line, going into Brooklyn to one of the RSL BMWs. Yeah, a bit of flashing there. It's not getting so civil. Yeah, tiny bit of conflict between the two drivers. Again, Ben Willis trying to go for the inside line, but the RSR BMW glues himself here. Hirlock still trying to maintain his championship there, but that's going to be one of the Vauxhalls there. I believe that's going to be Rainho, unfortunately, who spins into Brooklyn there, and that's going to be him going the wrong way, unfortunately. And that's the second person we've seen tonight, unfortunately, spin it going into Brooklyn. It's just a very difficult corner, especially in the rain, to break right here, as we do see Ty Guff, but once again going for the inside line here on Smith. He gets the move done with ease here, but we do also see one of the Richards & Co BMWs here is also going to take this to his advantage. It's almost going to go 4 wide here, going in to the Maggots hairpin here. But again, Ty Cuthbert on fire here, as we do see him going through into the Richards & Co, trying to collide here with the Richards & Co BMW here, but we do see the Richards & Co BMW with what is going to be Mr. Kojin goes up into P10, but going back on board now with Ben Willis, still trying to get past Daniel Hirlock here. Obviously, Dan's definitely going to be able to defend, very capable of defending as well, obviously being the previous champion and currently predicted to be the next champion here. Ben Willis is still trying to prevent that from happening here, as he's trying his absolute hardest now to try and get by Mr. Daniel Hirlock going into Corps.
So very close. Ben Willis just not giving up the fight whatsoever. Right behind him, fellow Cooper teammate Cameron Brewster is doing what he can to try and, well, certainly enjoying the spectacle ahead of him, I would think. That's the Cooper trying to get on the inside line of Dan Herlock, coming through the Maggots hairpin. Can't quite get it done though. Mitchell now with a 4.6 second lead over Cedo Via, who is now up into second position. Tom O'Leary in third, as we continue to watch the battle for fifth position. That's a very slidey ways Dan Herlock, as he has been all season long in that BMW in the wet. That's not going to go well. Let's open the door for Ben Willis. Ben tries to get through on the inside line, bounces off the RSI BMW. That's really wrong for Dan Herlock, and that is a very elbows out maneuver from Ben Willis, but that does put him up into fifth place for the time being. We did see Ben Willis flashing his lights at Dan Herlock earlier on, so something he wasn't best happy about. Tom Mould, who started in dead last, up into 13th position now, right ahead of Ottaviani. I think he went for a little bit too much grass there, and has actually forced the Italian to go very wide on the exit of Cops, but the Veloci Ace has to remain where he is. That's a very squiggly Tom Mould. Oh, he couldn't slow it down. Too much water on the track, and that is going to drop him down several positions. A bit of an impact with Ottaviani, as at the bottom of the shot, that's Dan Herlock losing a spot to Cameron Brewster. Here comes Johan Kajin to try and dethrone Jack London from ninth. Oh, goodness me, as we had last week, here is fighting all over the place. We're already down to our penultimate lap.
Actually, we're going on to our final lap here.
So we are.
Now we see it's going to be Cameron Brewster currently in the Drake Racing Cupra now in P6. Still wanted to try and get into that top 5 position from Ben Willis here. Obviously, they're not going to fight too hard as their teammates, and obviously the one person you do not want to crash into is your teammate. Thomas O'Leary now in the Richard Co BMW, currently predicted to take P3 for the second race of tonight. Now we do see Cedar Wire in P2. Brilliant job so far from him if he's able to maintain it for the final lap. We'll have to see, as well as we can see Luke Mitchell, who has done an absolutely amazing job today for the second race. Absolutely on fire as he comes around left field for the final time for the second race here tonight. Going through Woodcott, and he is going to be able to proudly say that he won the second race here tonight at Silverstone for the VMO Sim Racing TCUK, powered by AK Esports Championship.
That is absolutely right. So Luke Mitchell, flash of the lights, he's happy with that. Takes the second win. Cedar Vire comes home in second place for Brabham. It's his third podium of the season for the Toyota runner. Tom O'Leary rounds out the podium 3 for Richardson. Go side by side, Phil Garside. And I think that's Kajin that he's arguing with. No, it's Cameron Wilson. Callum Wilson, beg your pardon. Of which I think Garside just about won out. The Honda just managed to pip the BMW to 16th position. We'll go through a full run through of positions once everybody has come over the line. There's Bruno Reno in the Vauxhall. I think Matt Richards is still in the pits following his early race difficulties. But wow, a spot of rain and all the field really jumps up. The rear wheel drive cars really did not take well to the slightly inclement conditions.
That was probably the best. I say it every week, but it's just, again, your bar of expectation just goes up so high, especially with that little speck of rain we had during that race. It just threw a humongous spanner in the works for these drivers and actually benefited some of the drivers, especially being Ty Cuthbert, who I was really surprised with. I believe he started, what was it? He had the 5-place grid penalty. So he started P21 in the first race and ended up P10, I think it was, going into the second race. But we do now see the result before stewards' interventions coming on screen very shortly to see who actually won here. Luke Mitchell takes P1, followed then by Cedar Wire in P2, rounding out the first row. Thomas O'Leary in P3, Jeffrey Fournier in P4, Ben Willis P5, Cameron Brewster P6, Daniel Hurlock P7, Scott Mitchell Mount, unfortunately not having the brilliant race for himself, P8, Jack London P9, Alan Smith P10, rounding out our top 10 so far. Going down then 11th, it's going to be the Veloce Esports car of Otta Vianney, and then in P12 it's going to be Ty Cuthbert in the Quartermass Motorsport car, followed then by Chris Shepherd in the RSR BMW number 13, Thomas Mould in P14, Jordan Richardson in P15, Phil Garside P16, Callum Wilson P17, Kajin P18, Samuel Dowman P19, Bruno Reinho rounding out the top 20. Rounding out the top 20. I don't know what I said there. Matt Richards then unfortunately not having a great race at all, retiring from the race on what is going to be the final lap, or unless he was a lap down in the end there, unfortunately, for the Vapor Shield Racing. Oh, he finished one lap down, sorry, and then unfortunately Patello actually getting disqualified from the race. I'm not sure how he did that. Maybe
incorrect tires. It looks like it looks like, well, judging from the chat I've seen, DQ Renault for softs, so it would seem that he was running the wrong tire allocation. I don't make the rules, I just call it as I see it. Well then, so what happens now, for those not familiar with the setup, is a random number between 6 and 12 is drawn by our production team in the background. And whichever number is drawn, and we've just been told what that number is, it is 8. So the top 8 positions will be reversed. And would you believe it? That puts Scott Mitchell Malm on pole again. That's 3 poles in a row for Scott Mitchell Malm. I don't think we've seen that all season long. The same driver having all 3 pole positions. So that is Scott Mitchell Malm alongside Dan Hurlock for row 1. Cameron Brewster, Ben Willis for Drake on row 2. Jeff Fournier and Tom O'Leary on row 3. Cedar Vire and Luke Mitchell will have row 4. And everybody 9th downwards will start in the positions they finished the previous lap. So Jack London and Alan Smith will have row 5 for themselves. So row 6 will be Alejandro Ottaviani and Ty Cuthbert. Row 7 is Chris Shepherd and Tom Mould. Row 8, Jordan Richardson and Phil Garside. Row 9 is Callum Wilson and Johan Kajin. And row 10 will be Sam Dowman and Bruno Reno, with Matt Richards and Joao Belto starting from the back of the field. Now, we had quite a lot of action, particularly in that second race. Okay, it was weather assisted, granted, but oh my lord, what are we in store for our reverse grid element race? Well, before we have a look at that, let's have a look at the option tire runners. Now, this is, as a reminder, the option tires are those running the hard compound, not the soft as I was initially thinking. So those on the harder compound tires for this race are Sam Dowman, Luke Mitchell, Scott Mitchell-Malm, our triple pole sitter. Who's next? Tom O'Leary and Tom Mould are the drivers running the harder tire this time around. So, well, that in itself is going to spice up quite a few of our top positions. Oh, it's going to be a great way to see out racing here with some reverse grid action, Alex.
Indeed. So if it rains again, that will just add to the icing here. But again, with obviously Luke Mitchell actually taking pole position for the third race, is definitely going to be probably his best performance if he's able to obviously take it. Obviously, didn't he win 2 races at Donington, or was it 2 different rounds? I can't remember now. I don't have the sheet in front of me.
Luke Mitchell won races 1 and 2 at Donington Park.
So I was right there. So if he's able to match that performance, he's definitely going to be happy with himself. I would be happy with 1 win, but Luke Mitchell is really, really showing his dominance here tonight. And it's actually the entire Drake Racing team is a team that I'm actually quite surprised with their performance so far. So if we were to do another driver of the round vote at the end of it, I think it might be one of those drivers. But obviously it could change going into race 3.
It could indeed. Could very much so. So we're just waiting for the session to be set and for the reverse grid to be decided. So bearing in mind that it's not the work of a moment to get that set up, so do bear with us whilst our team get that all set up, for of course all the drivers to then return. Seeing in chat about a few apologies about the car wouldn't stop and what have you. And that's the thing, when you introduce wet weather, especially mid-race, that was a mixed condition race, bearing in mind, it's the condition that is least practiced. So it is much more drivers relying upon their racing instinct and skill more than track knowledge and muscle memory. So that's how it really mixes up the field. But also, as we saw, some cars really, really struggled. It looked like the BMWs really did not take well to the wet weather conditions. What weather will we see in race 3? Not a clue is the honest answer to that. I very much look forward to seeing it. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we did avoid the wet weather, because the the reverse grid element is going to spice it up as it is.
Indeed. So, but it's still really unpredictable in thinking on who might win this race, because obviously the tides will play a huge factor into this. And obviously if it rains again, which I think we're asking for a bit, well, I'm asking for a bit too much there, if it's only rained once in 2 years. So we'll find out in terms of what it's like, but I think it's very ironic that Silverstone's the one that's raining. But I think that is just more the truth.
Well, indeed. So I was trying to remember what the conditions were. It was really cold, because it was like February. First time I worked at Silverstone. It was it was still great though. Still very much enjoyable. But yeah, Silverstone in February, certainly in this country, is somewhat bitter. But even still, one thing that I was still really surprised at when I first did circuit commentary was just how hot it gets inside the car. I remember that one of my first trackside ones after Thruxton in 2021 was Snetterton. And I still remember going to interview a race winner. And bear in mind, it was freezing cold. It was bitter at Snetterton. Snetterton being a former airfield, it is completely flat. And when it gets cold and windy, there's nothing to mitigate the wind. It was freezing. And I remember this guy opened the door of the race-winning Porsche, and it was a furnace in there. This guy was sweating, and I'm like, let me in. I need to thaw out. And this guy's like breathing, breathing so heavily and absolutely, absolutely drenched in sweat. So, yeah, it was. Oh yeah, I'm sure he was quite uncomfortable, but it just struck me as strange that inside the actual race car is baking hot, whilst outside it can be somewhat fresh.
Yeah, I've been to Silverstone, not at winter time as much. I've been April time was the last time I went, and it was still absolutely freezing there. But luckily, a lot of the drift smoke kind of warms you up a tiny bit. I know that sounds really weird, but we were close enough to actually be in the proximity of the cars, which was really cool about it. But it's just rubber when you've been exposed to it. Well, the gas version anyway of rubber is really bad for you. I found out the next day.
That's one way to find out, I suppose.
Iron rubber.
So we're just waiting for the session. I think there was a slight technical hiccup, so we need to, I think, restart the warm-up session. I think that's just to make sure that everything is set up and everybody is back in. But also we will have to see what the weather is going to do. I've just spotted a comment in the chat. Scott Mitchell-Malm tried to forfeit the pole. Nice try. Well, he ended up going off the road a little more accurately, but so yeah, he tried to avoid the pole and ended up scoring it by finishing in 8th. Well done.
In detail, I'm just looking completely at chat because I closed chat for a second and then I come back to it, and then you have that unfortunate lag thing where it just goes straight back into chat feed there. But going on to race 3 now, predictions of top 3. It could be anyone. Obviously, we're gonna have that moment of where you say we will see. But who do you think on the top 3 you'll see?
Oh, you're gonna get me off the fence, are you? Oh. Well, I mean, trying to predict the top 3 is like, you may as well just draw them out of a hat. Who's gonna take the win? Oh, that's so hard. That is really, really difficult. Also, bearing in mind the tire allocations as well. I'm just gonna look back at. Oh, I don't know. It's so difficult. We've seen some brilliant performances, and again, it depends on the weather. If it stays dry, I was about to say Scott Mitchell-Malm, but he's on the harder tires. Yeah, this is his option race, so I think that's gonna be too much of a mitigating factor. Last time I bet Tom O'Leary, he got absolutely wrecked at Croft. Oh, who to go for? I would have thought I was thinking of one of the Vapor Shield Civics, but they had such a horrendous race too that they would have to have like the race of gods to get up to the win.
You never know.
Yeah, but stranger things have happened.
We've been proved before. We've been proved wrong multiple occasions.
We have. So true. Kind of looking at I'm looking at the spotters guide thinking, who would I choose? All right, if I gun to head, if I was choosing a name,
Bit of a
I'm gonna say yeah. Oh well, all right. You first then. If you have you chosen yours?
No. I haven't really thought about this. I just like seeing you suffer with it.
I'm gonna go with the bet I went with before. I'm gonna go Tom O'Leary, because again he can do wondrous things in the BMW, but that is if it is dry. If it's wet, the BMW's really struggled. And then it's just pick someone, because anybody could really come good. We saw Luke Mitchell absolutely fly in the previous race, but again he's on the harder tyre this time. So is that going to make a difference? We're going to see. Well, the weather at the moment, at least, is looking dry, but we did start under dry conditions last time, although it does look distinctly brighter.
You said it now. You have said it.
No, commentator curse. We'll see how good it is in me tonight. You know what? I'm gonna stick with O'Leary. As much as Dan Hurlock is right up there, you kind of expect him to do well. Although Dan Hurlock hasn't actually seen the top step of the podium since Donington, since we were first time at Donington, which was several rounds ago. He's seen second on the podium another 3 times, once at Oulton, once at Croft, and once at Snetterton. So it has been a very mixed second half of the season, but he had such a strong first half of the season that point advantage has carried him through for the remainder. So I'm gonna stick. You know what? I'm sticking with my bet. I'm gonna go Tom O'Leary.
I think I'm gonna go Luke Mitchell. We saw him absolutely send it in race 2, being able, I think he started P6 or something, so he's in a similar position now.
He's on the harder tyre, remember?
Take up. That could be an advantage point for him, though. We haven't really seen the full potential out of these tyres, because obviously if the top 7 battle extremely hard, and the majority of them being on the softs, but to be fair, there's only 4 people on the... oh, hang on, I forgot. No, the option's the harder tyre. Yes,
option's the harder, yeah.
So the majority of the people are on those softer tyres, so that could be an advantage point if they use their tyres incorrectly and very aggressively. But we do now see the grid formulating for the final time of tonight for the penultimate round here at VMO Sim Racing, powered by AK Esports. Sorry, as we do now see the rest of the grid just... Tom, shush. But we...
Production telling Alex off. That's brilliant.
You know what, you can take this one.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I have your permission. Right then, for the final time tonight, let's get these get the races underway. They wait for the horn. They wait to get going. All of the nerves are jangling. The championship could well be decided tonight. Can Dan Hurlock get it? Oh, it's a good start from the BMW. Again, Scott Mitchell-Mount not getting the start right whatsoever. He's lost the lead before we get down to Croft for the first time in anger. Dan Hurlock takes the lead. Willis and Brewster side by side. So much shuffling going on. Then right behind the Fournier and Via are arguing for positions. So the field now coming up towards the Maggots hairpin. It's Hurlock from Mitchell-Mount from Willis. Oh, that's one of the trade cars gone a little bit too deep. Tom O'Leary up into 4th already. You've got 3 wide right behind him. There's so many wides going on right behind the leaders. It's impossible to call them all. But Mitchell-Mount goes for the outside line on Dan Hurlock. Can't get it done. The RSR BMW fends off the advance. So there's Hurlock from Mitchell-Mount from Willis, your top 3.
Brilliant start of the race, but it's been very rowdy there going into left field, as I saw a lot of dirt being traced up there. But we do now see Jack London just trying to lurk onto the back of these cars here. Cedar Wire being one of them to try and get up into P7. We do also see the Veloci car, who's actually been struggling a tiny bit compared to what we've seen with Fiducci. Obviously, it's a new driver, so we don't really know what his bar of level is. But obviously, if he's in a Veloci car, which really translates to fast, hopefully he's able to do good results, which he has been. To be fair, he's in the top 10, I believe, on all of them so far. Ty Cup, but now going for a lunge, a huge lunge going into Maggots hairpin, and is able to make it stick, actually gaining, I believe it was 1 or 2 positions there to go side by side here with the RSR BMW of Shepherd here. Is he going to be able to get it done now? He does have a tiny bit of a slipstream ahead of him, which could help him here. They're going back and forth now with Cedo White, who's under a lot of pressure here from the Veloce car. The Veloce car goes quite wide there, unfortunately, for himself as we go into left field once again. But again, Cedo White just needs to try and focus ahead and not behind so far. Again, just trying to put the pedal to the metal as quickly as he can and as efficient as he can. But Fournier ahead of him is currently under battle as well, so he might be able to reel in that car just as quickly as he can think.
So much battling going on. This is what we love from touring cars. Yes, we're only on lap 3, but this is going to be all race long. We're looking at Cedo Via, but look a few positions behind him as you've got, well, as the camera now cuts to Jordan Richardson getting the inside line on Phil Garside as they come up to the Maggots hairpin once again. Richardson trying to get the move on Chris Shepherd. That's 2 positions and 2 corners for the Vapor Shield Civic. Very nicely done there for Jordan Richardson, trying to make up for lost time from race 2. Gets the inside line, does he, on Ty Cuthbert? Not quite. There's a bit of banging and shoving going on, but they all managed to live to corner another day. Jordan Richardson, that would have been a little bit uncomfortable there. He'd been shoved forward and then bouncing backwards. My goodness me, but they all managed to get through Luffield without too much drama. There's so many positions waiting to strike, and this, as the camera now cuts to Cedo Via in the Brabham Toyota. Right behind him, Mitch and Cuthbert. That's a very, very, very exploratory line from several drivers coming through cops.
Indeed so, but seeing the top 2 currently, Mitchell Baum, your prediction is currently quite a strong pick currently in P2. Mitchell unfortunately being in P11, hopefully he can redeem himself. But Herlock, though, can we appreciate currently in P1 after what is trying to redeem himself for race 2 after the unfortunate events that happened to him. I believe he ended up in I think it was P9, I might be wrong there. But Alan Smith now going, trying to preserve his position from Cedo Wire here for P9 as we can see the Veloci car ahead of him, just starting to create a tiny bit of a gap for himself there. Otter Vianney there in the Veloci car, but we do see, I can see now, I do say we do see, but now Alan Smith is well in the Craven Racing Cupra. Just trying to defend off as much as he can from Cedar Wire from behind, but still it's in such an early stage of the race that you can't actually tell who's the faster driver because of obviously how many of these drivers are compromised at their times because of how packed together the pack is.
Dan Herlock nearly with a second's lead to himself over Scott Mitchell-Malm, who's got the Drag Racing Cupra of Ben Willis right on his case. He's dragging with him teammate Cameron Brewster. So real scrap now for second. Scott Mitchell-Malm's got all the defending in the world. Bear in mind that Mitchell-Malm has the tyre disadvantage this time around. Does he have that from Willis though? I think so. As I think Ben Willis has already run his hard tyres. Either way, the Ford still doing a great job up top to keep up with Dan Herlock, who is on the prime tyre, so who's on the softer tyre, is our race leader. At the moment, Ben Willis not able to find his way through again. Still some exploratory lines being used. As the camera cuts back to Jordan Richardson in the Vapor Shield Civic, having a look on the inside line. Big move there on the inside line of Ty Cuthbert. Getting the move done on the quartermaster car. The Vapor Shield Civic is doing what he can to cut through the field. Not happy with how race 2 went. He is determined to make up for lost time.
Indeed, so but we do see Ty Cuthbert once again trying to lunge going into Brooklands. There's going to be a tiny bit of door rubbing between the two, but again, we've got to see the Honda of Jordan Richardson giving absolutely no toleration here, as we do see once again these two of the Hondas just trying to fight with each other, but we do actually see there Richardson actually goes up into P12.
Gosh, blimey, Jordan Richardson trying to barge his way through. But Phil Garside very nearly made that stick there, but couldn't quite do it. Ty Cuthbert down into 14th position. Looking slightly further out, Alejandro Ottaviani with his face absolutely full of the tail of Jack London. The Veloci BMW trying to get the exit from the Maggots hairpin, glued to the back of the number 36 Ford. Is he going to have a look? He Thinks about an inside maneuver coming up towards Brooklyn. Switches to the outside. He wants the inside for Luffield. That's why he's gone for that particular moment. Has he got it? Yes, he has. So the Veloci Italian, it's only Italians that's driven that car all season with Gianmarco Fiducci in it beforehand, but it's got to defend now to hang on to that 7th position. Oh, bit of a slide there for that just denied the Ford the momentum he needed. Alejandro Ottaviani up into 7th.
Mitchell Mount now just chipping away on the gap between him and Daniel Herlock. Now just 5 tenths as we speak between the two drivers, which will mean we will start seeing a battle for the actual lead of the race very soon here. But we do see a very, very rowdy pack here, all going at it. Garside here, we're on board with. Still trying to get past what is Richardson, as he did lose that position earlier on into the race here. He's going to try and go side by side going into Brooklyn's probably the best overtaking opportunity that we've seen here tonight. So he gets the inside line, which is definitely going to be a big advantage point for him. And we do actually see as well that is going to be Mitchell under pressure as well from both of the two Hondas here. Who's going to come out victorious? It's going to be Richardson once again. It's a tiny bit of a bump between the two drivers, but Phil Garside still being able to stay in the same direction as well. But we do see Garside needs to try and get past this car as quickly as he can, because TCUK and the rest of the group is starting to catch back up, which means this humongous group of what I believe is about 7 cars is starting to get really feisty.
Very, very true. All bottled up behind Cido Via, who in turn is trying to catch that group of 3 that Ottaviani is leading ahead, but so much fighting going on. Phil Garside has yet to find a way past Jordan Richardson. Ford is now 11th position. The two Civics are dueling away quite nicely. Phil Garside having a bit of a think about it, as that is Richardson on the inside line of Luke Mitchell coming up into Brooklands. That's going to force him to the outside line of Luffield, and yeah, you could just see how much of a disadvantage you are if you go over that inside line. Phil Garside trying to follow through the Drake Racing Cupra to get ahead of the Civic, but no, again the Vapor Shield Civic just managing to get the momentum he needs as we witness some cone death. I'm not sure actually who hit the cone, but it is a bit of cone death. Sim racing is not complete without a death of a cone somewhere. Ben Willis all over the back of Scott Mitchell-Malm. The Ford defending very, very heavily. Dan Erlock just doing what he needs to do at the moment, not needing to actually do an awful lot more than he's doing. Doesn't need to pull away, just needs to keep that gap where it is, which is easier said than done, I grant you. He's just following his own lines, but he's allowing Willis to attack Mitchell-Malm to maintain that gap that Herlock has got. Not too far Not too far behind these two is Cameron Brewster. He's falling just about a second behind the battle for second, but he's still right there as Ben Willis has got the overlap, along with Matt Richards in the second of the Vapor Shield Civics, gets the overlap and gets the position from Sam Dowman.
But actually, Dan Herlock now, in previous races, we did see that he is really difficult to get by. Defending, he is like just, again, glued to a piece of paper almost here. So he is just one of the drivers that it's getting closer to him is one thing, but getting past him is another. But Ben Willis, again, is, well, not going to make it too easy to defend, but we do see now as well as Ottaviani in P5 now, so getting a lot of position share. This is really good for him for his debut race here tonight, as we do see going into Luffield. He's under a tiny bit of pressure from the other RSR California as we go into Luffield, going into Woodcote now as well. Still a relatively big gap between the two cars, so a lot of reaction time and breathing space between the two. So you do see now Callum Wilson all over the rear of Ty Cuthbert here. Cuthbert's going to be under quite a bit of pressure, but he has cars ahead of him as well that is probably more focused on, as we do go into Corps once again. This is where the Richards & Co BMWs really dominate going into Corps, as we have seen quite a few of the battles actually happening there, with including the Richards & Co Racing's cars, as we do now go into Maggots hairpin now, as I was about to call it Maggots Beckett's, but you could just see how muscle memoried I am of Silverstone. But we do now go in to Brooklyn's Cameron Brewster, just trying to gain some time here on Mitchell-Malm, but Mitchell-Malm loses the position to Ben Willis at a previous time. So this is starting to get a tiny bit interesting for P2 here, but Daniel Hillock is having a tiny bit of a sigh of relief. So he's now been able to bag a 2-second gap now because of the battle of Ben Willis and Mitchell Malm.
Yeah, Cameron Brewster trying to demote Scott Mitchell-Malm outside of the podium positions. And then behind them, you have got Osaviani and Jeff Fournier that are locked in their own duel. A little bit further back, we look at Jordan Richardson once again, gets the inside line of the next drag racing entry and punches him in the face to get inside the top 10. That's Luke Mitchell that has lost another position and flashed on the lights there from the drag racing entry. Not happy with how that move transpired, but Jordan Richardson up into 10th. Ty Cuthbert moving through into 11th as well. As that side-by-side, Brewster and Mitchell-Malm for 3rd position. The drag racing Cooper is going to have to concede that. Didn't get the overlap he needed, but that's forced Mitchell-Malm to go a little bit too deep going into Brooklands. I don't think Cameron Brewster is going to be able to capitalise on that, though. He doesn't fancy the outside line coming through left field. Tucks in behind the Ford once again. Herlock is continuing to open up his gap up front. And now Willis is free from challenge. And Cameron Brewster sizes up another go at Scott Mitchell-Malm. He's got the overlap this time coming up towards Cops. Gets the move done. That is 2 drag racing entries inside the top 3. Bit of a slide though on the exit. That's compromised both himself and Scott Mitchell-Malm as Alejandro Ottaviani now gets involved. So can the Veloci BMW get into the podium positions?
Definitely got to be one of his goals here. Again, Mitchell-Malm is still under an immense amount of pressure, unfortunately losing 3 positions since the start of this race. But once again, it could be 4 at this rate. Again, the Veloci Esports car of Ottaviani just seems really strong all of a sudden, and is actually going to try and make a move here going into left field. He's not going to be able to stick it though, as it does seem the Veloci car does go quite wide there, but going on until the start-finish straight here, going into Woodcock, into start-finish straight. This is where the slipstream's going to be the strongest. Again, still a really, really small straight, so it's not going to be that effective. But Corpse and Maggot's hairpin is definitely going to be such strong corners, especially for one of these BMWs, which is probably the strongest braking car as we've seen in previous rounds.
Ottaviani now trying to make Scott Mitchell-Malm's day even worse as they come into the Maggot's hairpin once more. He's gone from outside line on the exit of the Maggot's hairpin. Can't get the overlap though. Scott Mitchell-Malm defending for all he's worth. He opts to stick to the racing line and get into the slipstream of Cameron Brewster. Is that going to give Alejandro the position? It does indeed. Big slide from the Veloci BMW, but that is 4th now to the Veloci Ace. Now, can he get Cameron Brewster? Can he disrupt, or can he prevent Drake getting a double podium in this race? Now, that is going to be interesting to see. Alejandro Ottaviani is really showing his true talent in this 3rd race of the night. Is already in a position to challenge for that spot as we look at the 2nd of the Vapor Shield Civics of Matt Richards, just getting alongside and ahead. Or does he? No, not quite, of Alan Smith. So Alan Smith in the Cupra manages to get the spot back, but Matt Richards gets the up and under from Cops, noses up into 16th place, and he's now got his almighty great pack right ahead of him, right behind these two as well. Battle for 18th between Tom Mould and Johan Kerji.
Indeed. So now Kejin still has a lot on his plate here. Obviously, this is his debut round as well for covering for Callum Cripps. If he's going to be back for next race, we will have to find out. But still quite impressed with him for his 1st round here. Again, tied cuff, but under a lot of pressure here from a Honda and the BMW here. Jordan Richardson showing no mercy after the trauma he was put through going into the 1st race as he lunges for the inside line there, but we saw the Richardson car a step further than him as he is able to glue the inside line here, but we still see it side by side here, the RSR BMW against one of the drag racing cars here of what is going to be Luke Mitchell here for P12 here, as we do see P13, sorry, Chris Shepherd here still having to try defend off it as he still has a car behind him, but still trying to regain his position of P13 here. Some would say the unlucky number as we go back on to the Wellington Straight for one of the final times for tonight. Is there going to be any sort of retaliation form of position from the car? As it stands, nothing just yet, but just have to wait and see because obviously there's still 5 laps left to go.
Ty Cuthbert did a brilliant job of actually maintaining that 10th position. It's holding on to the last spot inside the top 10. As we now look at the top group, then Dan Herlock leads the way by 2.3 seconds or so. And Willis in second. Brewster is under all the pressure in the world from Alejandro Ottaviani, who in turn has got himself about 1.2 second gap over Scott Mitchell-Malm, who has got his mirrors full of Jeff Fournier. So the battle for third then continues. Will Drake be able to hold on to that double podium, or will Veloce spoil their party? We will see. As again, you look at the defensive posture that Cameron Brewster went for, making a big statement of intent. And there, you are not passing here, good sir. And Ottaviani is going to have to find another way through. He's not going to go for an outside line at Luffield. That will never work. He hasn't got an awful lot of laps left to try and figure out how he's going to make his way past the Drake Racing entry.
Indeed. So if it is going to happen, that is. But now just going down to 3 laps left to go. Time is ticking here for the Veloce car. Will he be able to get by Cameron Brewster? Cameron Brewster has presented himself as a really, really strong driver here for tonight. But is he going to be as strong as the Veloce car that we see behind him as we go into Maggott's hairpin for one of the final times of tonight? Who's going to get the better exit speed? It seems to be the Veloce car once again. This is going to be a time. Who's going to glue themselves to the inside line? Is it going to be Brewster to try and defend his position going into Brooklands, or is it going to be the Veloce car of Ottaviani? Doesn't seem, nothing really happens here going on into Luffield here, but we do see now Callum Wilson starting to flash his lights at Ty Cuthbert here. If that's more in frustration or anger, we'll have to find out later. Ty Cuthbert still doing quite a good job so far of defending from the pack behind him, because you can see there is a lot of cars behind him so far. I believe there's about 4 cars or so. I can't really see just yet how many are there, but again, Callum Wilson seems to be the faster driver in this case so far, but the battle of 10th is still not over. 4 cars for it so far. Callum Wilson leaps for the inside line going into Corps. Not sure really why he's flashing. Ty Cuthbert doesn't have to give up the position, but he goes really, really wide there. So Callum Wilson starting to get a tiny bit frustrated that Ty Cuthbert is defending so far as he goes side by side going into Maggott's hairpin here now. Ty Cuthbert is able to defend his position by breaking a tiny bit later, but we go into the exit here. Who's going to get the better exit speed? It seems to be Callum Wilson here. Is he going to try and go side by side? We'll find out. But this is going to be the battle 4P3 here. This is what's going to matter. There's going to be a switchback here from Brewster, but Ottaviani, is the one who's going to be able to take it. But for how long? Is there going to be retaliation here from Brewster as we go on into lap 21 here? When the leader crosses the line, but it seems that the Veloce car has gotten past. Is there going to be retaliation? We will only find out.
Wow, Alejandro Ottaviani is really flying in this race, up into 3rd position as the camera now Casasido Vaya, who is trying to challenge Tom O'Leary for 7th position. Right behind him, going a little bit wayward on the exit of Cops, is Jack London. So a great 3-way fight here. The Toyota overlaps with the BMW coming down into the Maggott's hairpin. The Brabham Racing entry gets the overlap, gives the BMW a bit of a punch in the face, disrupts Tom O'Leary's momentum a little bit, and then right at the bottom of the shot you can actually see Cameron Brewster having to go back at Alejandro Ottaviani. So who's going to win out here? The Veloce BMW sliding his way through Brooklands, hangs on to 3rd position, but has got it all to do to keep a very determined Cameron Brewster behind.
Indeed, this is all coming down to the last lap, to who's going to be crowned the 3rd podium step here for the last race of the night. Thomas O'Leary now still under pressure from behind, but still trying to put pressure on Wire. Wire's done a brilliant job so far today on all of the races and actually trying to just maintain a position, but we do see here Thomas O'Leary still under a lot of pressure here, so this could be a big break here for Wire as they nearly go side by side here. Jack London just all over the rear here of Thomas O'Leary as we go into Maggott's hairpin for the final time between these two. Who gets the better exit? Is it going to be 3 wide? It doesn't seem Wire had the best exit through there. So this could be interesting going into Brooklands, but it does seem Thomas O'Leary is ahead. But Daniel Herlock now comes round Luffield for the final time of tonight to win the 3rd round of the 3rd race, of round 8, or no, round 9, here at the VMO Sim Racing powered by AK Esports Championship here, and we'll have to do the calculations. When I say we'll have to do the calculations, I'll find out in the broadcasting chat a minute if he has been able to wrap up the championship. I'm not sure if he has, but we will find out. Jack London coming home in P9 as well after a humongous battle he's had all race here tonight.
Wow, that was just intense from beginning to end. But Dan Herlock has taken the win. It's been a while since he stood on the top step, since he's taken the silverware, but he does do it this time around. Superb stuff. Joao Belto, if he'd actually just let one car past him, he'd have had one less lap to do. But in the Grow Racing Astra, comes home on the lead lap. As Bruno Reina, beg your pardon, was the one being challenged for to be lapped, but he remains on the lead lap as our last remaining car. Dan Herlock, almost certainly, if he hasn't clinched it, he near as damn it has. He's just maintained incredible consistency all season long and finishes out Silverstone with a win. So then, let's have a look at the racing positions before Stewart's intervention, and we will do shortly when the graphic is displayed. So yes, Stewards still have their part to play. We've seen a few moments from some drivers, but Dan Herlock takes the win. Ben Willis in second, Alejandro Ottaviani in third, Cameron Brewster fourth, Scott Mitchell-Malm in fifth, Jeff Fournier in sixth, Cedar Vire seventh, Tom O'Leary eighth, Jack London ninth, and Ty Cuthbert for Quartermass rounding out the top 10. Callum Wilson in 11th, Jordan Richardson 12th, Luke Mitchell 13th, Chris Shepherd 14th, Phil Garside in 15th, Matt Richards 16th, Alan Smith 17th, Johan Kergin in 18th, Sam Dowman 19th, and Tom Mould in 20th place, with Joao Belto in 21 and Bruno Reino rounding out our 22 car field. What a night's racing. That was phenomenal.
Indeed. So race 2 definitely topped it off for me, with obviously that rain aspect that I wasn't thinking we were going to see this season. Well, at the start of this, I wasn't even thinking that rain could be a possibility, because we've had fair weather before, which is what it was classified as tonight, but we never saw rain. I think it was at Donington for the first round, well, the supposed first round that unfortunately was rescheduled, but we didn't see rain there, and it has been quite cloudy for most of the rounds as well. So it was just more immune to me that rain might not happen this season, because it's just such a low chance, but that chance has been broken, and it's now practically made history in VMO.
Absolutely so. Well, we just have one single race of the season to go, and what a season it has been. It has been a tremendous pleasure to be seeing this season unfold. It's had its thrills and spills and amazing changes of momentum from various drivers, but it is going to be Brands Hatch GP that sees the conclusion of the season in 2 weeks' time. Has the championship been sealed up? We will find out next time out. You will have to join us to be certain. But join us in 2 weeks' time for some more amazing racing here at the VMO as supported by AK Esports. My name's been Chris Buxton, and it's been a great pleasure to be in the commentary box. Thank you very much, Alex Newman, for joining me as always, sir. It's been a great pleasure to be alongside you once more.
Always a pleasure, never the chore, to be alongside you and Tom in production as well. Big thank you for you doing all of the nerdy camera work in the background.
Absolutely so. And as always, thank you to our drivers for putting on an amazing show. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We hope to see you there. Until next time, thank you very much and good night.